Hey everyone, and welcome to the next level. Today I would like to discuss a very important topic very briefly. In fact, this topic is so important that my next video series is going to be dedicated entirely to this one topic. This one is tricky, and this one has probably been my biggest personal struggle over the years. This is the one topic that, to me, separates the good players from the great players. I am, of course, talking about motivic development. What is motivic development? It is your ability to take a musical idea in your improvisation and generate musical material based on that idea in one way or another. And do it for a prolonged period of time. Not just for 2 bars or 3 or 4 bars, but for, 2 choruses, if need be. This is something almost no one knows how to do. In my own personal journey as an improviser, this has been the biggest challenge that required the most amount of work, and I'm still nowhere near a place where I would be happy and content with my own motivic development abilities. The idea of motivic development was first pointed out to me by the great music educator and trombonist, Mr. Hal Crook. He was the first one to ever point out to me in detail just how poorly I was doing on that front, and just how mediocre the absence of motivic development was making my improvisations sound. Like I said, my next video series of 5, 6, or 7 videos will be entirely dedicated to the topic of motivic development. But in this video, I will just cover the general idea of it and give you a brief example of what it sounds like when there is motivic development in the playing and when there isn't. The yin-yang here, the 2 blocks with which we get to play, are motivic development, where you develop an idea over time, versus through composed playing, where you don't develop ideas, where you just play them and then sort of move on from one to the next, from one to the next. That is called through composed playing. First, let me demonstrate what I mean by through composed. Please notice the flow of my musical ideas, where one goes to the next, and to the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, and I don't really stop and develop any of them in any meaningful way for longer than a bar or 2. Something like this. The next example is me demonstrating what motivic development sounds like. Please pay attention to the ideas I play and how I attempt to stick to these ideas and develop them further before moving on to the next one. It sounds a little something like this. This last example is going to be me trying to, again, balance the two. Back to the old idea. If the soup is too salty, add water. If the soup is too watery, add salt. If you've been playing through composed for a long time, what's going to make your playing come alive all of a sudden is if you balance that with some motivic development. Now, if you've been playing motivic development for a while and really squeezing the juice out of an idea, what's going to make your playing come alive at that moment is if you play some through composed stuff that doesn't develop any motives. Ideally, in our playing, we should have a healthy balance of both. That's what's going to keep the playing interesting and the storyline engaging and captivating. So here's me trying to play for a little bit, balancing the idea of motivically developed material versus through composed material, which has no motivic development. Wish me luck. I hope in these few examples I was able to demonstrate to you just sort of the bare bones principles of what motivic development sounds like and feels like versus what non-motivic development, i.e. through composed playing, sounds like and feels like. I'm going to get into a lot of detail on all this in the upcoming 5, 6, or 7 videos. The majority of improvisers in the world, probably most of your friends and most of you, and myself for many, many years, play almost exclusively through composed material. We don't stop and examine our own ideas and select them for further development for longer than, I don't know, 4 bars or 8 bars at a time. Then we usually drop the idea and move right on to the next one, and then to the next one, and the one after that. The problem with that is that this creates a feeling in the music of sort of an absence of a storyline, you see. If you play a lot of motivic development stuff, it's cool to then play through composed for a while to balance it out. But the problem is, most of us usually play mostly through composed stuff and never balance that with motivic developed stuff. Why not? Well, for once, most of us can't. It's actually very difficult to do well. Some people are naturally better at it than others, just like in any other skill. Some people need to consciously address it as an issue. I, for once, am one such person. I am still working on it. Like I said, to me, personally, this is the single quality that separates good players from great players. Let's be honest. Most of us decent players know how to get through a set of changes, okay? Most of us decent players know which chord scale goes with which chord. But how many of us can take a musical idea and stick to it for 3 choruses and develop it? Or better yet, for 3 minutes. If you're a great improviser, you should at least be able to stick with one idea for a chorus of a tune. Some examples of players who are unbelievably good at motivic development would be Keith Jarrett, Pat Metheny, Michael Brecker, Brad Meldau, Aaron Parks, and of course a long list of the great jazz masters of the past, with whom we are all hopefully familiar. Motivic development is how jazz is a language, as opposed to a collection of words. Motivic development is the organization of musical ideas where patterns begin to emerge and there is an actual logical storyline the listener can trace. As such, motivic development is unavoidable if we're hoping to construct anything musical worth listening to. That's it, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content. And as always, please leave a comment down below if you have any questions or requests, and I will address them in future videos. Thanks.